Away, away, oh, hey, hey, oh. Away, away, oh, hey, hey, oh. Away, away, oh, way, oh, hey, hey, oh.
My name is Lorena Ayala. This is David's story.
My name is Jennifer Bridges, and this is David's story.
My name is George Neptune, and this is David's story.
Hilda Soktoma Lewis. This is my son David's story.
I am Patricia Ayala Rocavado, and this is David's story.
My name is David Moses Bridges, and this is my story.
Enough bark here for a canoe if this tree was any good. But I don't think it's going to be that great. I think it's going to be splitty. Pretty rough stuff. But it's straight enough and there's enough length.
I am Passamaquoddy from Pleasant Point Reserve, also called Zibayik in Passamaquoddy. My father's family's been in Maine since the 1630s, and my mother's family has been in Maine for 12,000 years. So I have a long history here in Maine. Go back a long way. I grew up between the two communities, between Portland, South Portland, the Portland area, and Pleasant Point Reserve, the Passamaquoddy Reserve near Eastport, Maine. The natural world was just wide open. I think I was really lucky to grow up in that generation before televisions. Yeah, there was televisions out there, but we didn't have one. So we made our own entertainment. We ran around the woods, we built forts, we built rafts, we did all kinds of stuff. Just no end of what we created. We would have little wars, we would make little teams, we would have little sporting events, you know, kickball, stickball, baseball, softball, whatever. And we just had fun. And it was baby boom time, so there was a lot of kids around. They were everywhere. Every house had 2 or 3 kids in it. Not like now where, you know, sometimes you hardly see any kids. In South Portland, I used to run around the beach between Cape Elizabeth, Portland Headlight, all the way down to Spring Point Light, that was my territory, and just crawl around the rocks, greatly in danger of falling and drowning or getting smashed on the rocks, but we learned.
When I hear about some of the adventures that they had as children, I cringe. They could have been, oh my goodness, they could have been damaged or hurt or something.
I did fall in the water once and managed to not drown. That was off of an iceberg in February, but that's a long story of its own I won't get into, but here I am. It worked out. And in Zibayik, it was the same. Just I had a ton of friends there and a ton of family, and my parents, grandparents, my elders were, for the most part, just busy. So all I used to hear all the time was, get out of the house, you know, go do something. Come back for lunch, come back for supper, have your breakfast, disappear, and, you know, in a loving way. But go do your thing, and because don't get in our way, we're doing our thing. My dad was a welder and engineer, and my mom was an operating room nurse. She was a registered nurse, graduated from college. So it was quite a big step for her in the late 50s, and for the community. Different place back then.
Graduated from nursing school in 1960. and I went on to follow my career. I always wanted to go into the Air Force, but I got married. And at that time, they did not allow females to be married in the Air Force, and I wanted to be a flight nurse. At age 34, one of my brother-in-laws said to me, they're accepting nurses that are married in the Air Force Nurse Corps. And I said, really? So I looked into it, and sure enough, and I just got in under the wire because the cutoff date was 35. I started my career at Pease Air Force Base as a flight nurse. They sent me off to flight school. They sent me off to officers training school. Very exciting and very interesting. I finished my career in the Air Force Nurse Corps and also my civilian job at the Mercy Hospital in 1995. I had put in 22 years in the Air Force. When I retired as a lieutenant colonel. I grew up at Pleasant Point on the Indian Reservation. I lived with my parents, Beatrice and Simon Sotoma, and my grandfather lived next door to us. His name was Sylvester Gabriel. He was a great influence in our lives, stressed education as we were growing up. Spent a lot of time with us. He spent a lot of time with my children when they were growing up.
And he raised me when I was younger. He was my caregiver because we didn't have daycare back then, you know. So my mom and dad had to go to work early. Everybody was busy working. He took care of us. He took care of lunches, you know. Teach us things, teach us ways of being and ways of observing things, I guess. You know, without even trying, you just sort of see how they are. You pick up the things that they're doing, and you try to make them. Like, my great-grandfather was a bark worker, so I always wanted to make things out of bark. I wanted to make canoes out of bark as soon as I found out that he was a canoe maker. And of course, I was still very young. I was under 10 years old, so it wasn't really possible for us to just break it out and work together. He was in his 80s at the time, so he hadn't been gathering in years.
We lost him early in the 70s. He was 84 years old. My mom and dad continued to stress his values as well. More so, my mother. My dad was away a lot. He was in the military, fought in the Korean War. I had a great deal of admiration for my dad because I admired the fact that he went away to serve his country. And my mother was a basket maker. My grandmother on my father's side and my mother used to make baskets, and they would set up a tent in the summertime and they would sell baskets to the tourists.
And that's what most people in the community were doing, was making baskets, brown ash baskets, brown ash and sweetgrass, woven baskets, and the big pack baskets for the fish factories, for the sardine canneries that were in Eastport and Jonesport, Addison, and different places like that in that section of eastern Maine. Scale baskets, they call them. Everybody was making baskets. That was the main income for a lot of people. She actually wouldn't teach me how to do sweetgrass and brown ash work because she said that only women do that. Only women do fancy baskets. She had these gender-specific roles for the community that were not sexist or anything like that. They were just gender-specific roles. That's what the women do. The men do this kind of stuff. The men make pack baskets. The men make scale baskets, but they don't do the little fancy baskets, and that's what she did. So all the more reason to talk to my grandfather about bark and about how to use a crooked knife and some of the tools that he used and the material. You know, I remember these ways where it was taught directly from an elder to a child, whereas now we almost had to like reinstall that way of thinking after, you know, a 10, 15, or 20-year gap. Seems like in the 70s, everybody just forgot that. The elder makers kept on making. They kept on working, and there were people who were interested who started working with them, but on a small scale, you know, myself included, and others in the community. Nobody really looked at it as like a viable way of making money while maintaining tradition and staying connected to our ancestral homeland. the traditional craft that we practice today. A lot of that came right to the brink. In the case of birch bark canoe building, it came right to the very brink. My great-grandfather was the last of the old-time makers. I was never able to work with him directly, so I had to work with his tools that he gave me. And I went to boat school in Eastport to study traditional boat building so that I could read the lines plans, the offsets, which describe a hull form on a flat page using a series of numbers. I couldn't understand. And I was so fortunate to know Sylvester. It doesn't feel like a generational skip to me. It feels like it was given to me directly by him, because it was. But we never did get to make a canoe together because of his age and my age. You know, too young and too old. I come from a very unique culture, and my parents and elders are very unique people. And I remember when I was in 4th grade, I just told the teacher that I'm Indian, I'm Passamaquoddy, and she just looked at me, laughed, and said, "There's no Indians in Maine, they're all gone." So yeah, that's what they told me. I tried to tell her, no, you ought to come to my house and listen to my grandma speak and watch what she does. They're not gone. I knew it, and I knew that they were wrong. It started off a whole age of when I started to question authority. These are the teachers who were supposed to be the authorities. I gave them a fact, I stated a fact, and they said that I was wrong. I knew I wasn't wrong.
David is a very brilliant young man. He had some issues in the school when we moved to Connecticut, and they thought that he might have had a learning disability. So they tested him, and they found that he had one of the highest IQs of the kids in the school. He was not challenged. He always wanted to be challenged.
We're still here. I'm still sitting right here. The Passamaquoddies are sitting on their ancestral homeland, right where they were when Champlain sailed up the river in 1604. We're still in the same spot. So, you know, we haven't gone anywhere. Spain, England, Holland, France, all those guys have tried to plant their flag here. Now it's the United States. We're here forever. We've been here for 12,000 years, and we're gonna be here for another 12,000 years. So we watched this blowing by just thinking like, okay, all that's happening outside our window. Our focus now has to be more on ourselves and on the good things that our society has, and maintain those, work with our children, and, you know, teach them how to function in the world. Obviously, they're going to get out into that world, but don't forget who we are and where we came from, because the values that we have and the lessons that we've learned over 12,000 years have fed us, maintained us, and kept us alive and well for that whole time. So we created a sustainable place to live. And if we listen to ourselves, it will remain sustainable.
I love all of my children, and I was happy with all of them, but when I had a girl, oh my goodness, I dressed her up in all of these dresses, and Polly Flanders dresses, lacy dresses. She didn't stick with that style.
I would be the first to pull them off and run around half naked. I was a tomboy. I was the one chasing them through the woods while they were trying to ditch me, falling into ditches, always saying that I would tell my mother and father what they were up to if they didn't take me with them. I was the one bringing home the little snakes and frogs in my pocket, and I was not very feminine at all.
And I dressed her up fancy. I did for the boys too. And boy, did they hate that, as you can imagine. And Jennifer's kind of a free spirit, and David is too. You
know, I had my parameters. And they defined the parameters by the stories they told me. This is a great trick they do up on Pleasant Point, the elders, to keep the kids in line. They'll tell you that right over there is where the Abu Dumpkin live. You know, the Abu Dumpkin's a sea monster. He lives right down there on the beach, and if he sees children alone on the beach, he'll come and eat them. And over there, that's where the Tom Tom Zizik live. That's the little people, or the Mikomwesu, They live right over there, and they're tricksters. They steal your things. So if you leave your things out overnight, like your toys, and they're gone the next day, it's the Mikamwesu that came and got them. And other little creatures lived in certain places. Squawtamoose, the swamp woman, came out at night, and she had seaweed for hair and big long arms, and she walked like an ape, and she could imitate a baby's cry and other things. So when people like heard a baby crying at night, they were like attracted to it, but it was a trick. And then if she got really close and she looked at you, you were gonna die. So if you ever heard Squawtamoose, you run in the other direction, head right home. And I heard her, and I ran. So it kept you in line, you know. Grandmas knew that. I used the same tactics on my son Tobias. So, and I don't think he's too traumatized by any of it.
Well, let me put it this way. I don't feel traumatized by it now, but I certainly remember it. It's on the forefront of my brain for sure. I definitely remember those stories, and I will definitely tell my kids. They're definitely going to know them. And honestly, if I hear a baby's cry sometimes that is just screeching, that image of Squawtamoose can definitely come to my head, for sure.
They were raised all the same way, but they have their specific personalities, and I love that. They're individuals. But growing up, I tried to give them every advantage that I could possibly give them. I wanted them to develop a love for music, a love for reading, and they all have that. They're all very smart.
David, of course, as a boat builder, started to steer his boat building expertise towards reviving the birch bark canoe building. It makes me so proud to see him do that. I am so proud to be his sister because everybody loves what he does, and he's really grown and become so centered around the birch and feeling proud of himself too. We all look for our path in life, and I think David really found it when he started working with birch.
Growing up with Dad, I think, was awesome and interesting because I never really understood what his art form was until I was probably about 7 or 8. You know, I never really understood like the importance of it and what he was really doing. Once I really started to understand that, then it was interesting because I went to all of his canoe buildings. You know, I helped him build baskets, helped him go out gathering, and that's when I really started to understand what he was doing and how rare of an art form this is, and that it could be gone in just a second. And I never realized that.
People don't know a whole lot about bark. It really fell off the map as an indigenous craft. By the 1920s and 30s, it was practiced by only a few people. I do a lot of children's programming in Maine with elementary schools, high schools. I do basket making programs with adults. I do canoe making programs with adults. So everywhere I go, nobody's ever seen it before. Talk about the ancestors, talk about the ancestors' appreciation for birch bark, talk about the uses of the bark, and also do something, make something. I use all my scrap bark for that. I'll cut it up into little squares and then they can etch something. I make these little stencils. While they're etching, we talk about some of the old legends, and I just try to give them a sense of where they're standing here in Maine. It's a great place to live, and the ancestors lived here, obviously. So throughout all of the discussions, the whole focus is just trying to give them a better appreciation for the land that they live on. They're the next generation right now, but someday they're going to be like me. They're going to be in the middle, and then on another day they're going to be the elders. And that our job here now, as the ones who are active in the present as teachers and caregivers for the elderly and the children, that if we don't save, this planet in this beautiful environment for the next generation, then what happens then? The whole thing goes up in flames and there's nothing left for anybody. So I always try to remind them of that. And then I always tell them, too, go home and thank your mom and dad for everything that they're doing, because they're really working hard for you, you know, or your grandparents or your auntie or your uncle, whoever's raising you, you know. Thank them, because they're providing for you now, and then someday you're going to take care of them. And just trying to give them an idea of the whole cycle of life, and the cycle of life, not only their own life or human life, but the life of this environment that we live in, and the fact that it will provide for you if you take good care of it.
I think he is one of the persons in his community who is really committed with how I can work with my culture, how I can maintain my culture alive, and how we can give to the future generations.
Patricia, well, it was a long hunt, I can tell you that much. But I work with Indigenous people, and she works with Indigenous people in South America. I was working with First Peoples Fund, an Oglala group out of Rapid City, South Dakota, and she was studying for her doctoral thesis at the University of Indiana, Purdue.
Yeah, I'm from Bolivia. I born in Oruro, a small or middle-sized city in the highlands in Bolivia. I grew up with 5 siblings, 3 sisters and 2 brothers, and I went to Santiago and I studied archaeology in Santiago. That was my under degree. I went to start my master program. After that, with that background, being an archaeologist who worked with Native community, I started my PhD program. And my professor, who was one of the first archaeologists in the United States who worked with Native community and worked with the repatriation process, give back the human remains to the Native communities, I went to study with him. And he told me, okay, Patricia, if you want to work with Native communities as archaeologists, you need to go to this meeting because you're gonna meet leaders and Native artists. I went, and there was David.
And we were both in the same meeting, and there she was. And she caught my eye, and just like she did this morning. And yeah, I tried to think of something to say. And it probably came out sounding stupid as hell, but I got a date with her anyway. So.
Did you like the museum? And I say something very like, yes, I love the museum. You know, this kind of conversations that are very obvious, but it's because you don't know what to do, what to say. And then we decided to see each other that night.
And then we went out, and then we went out again. We really liked each other. So I made a promise, this was going to be in a month, I'll meet you in New York City. And we emailed, and then next thing you know, she came to Maine to visit me in Maine, and then I went to New York, and then next thing you know, I'm on my way to South America, to Chile, to see her, and then she's coming back. And I was doing a lot of work, traveling a lot at the time, so I was working in Indiana and for the United Nations in New York. So if she had business in New York, we could line up our trips, and she had to do some more follow-up work in Indiana, so she came. And yeah, we somehow managed to do the transcontinental romance for 3 years before we finally just said, I want to be wherever you are all the time. And then we made that choice to be together all the time, whether in this country or that. And then came Sabathis shortly after, and then Latanis.
Patricia is his true love. I could see that. I know my children, I know the way they react, and I know that Patricia is his life, his love, and I had the 2 little babies, so.
Sometimes you have goals in life, no? And one of my goals was dancing in some place in Spain, and I was dancing there. I was really happy with my life and gratefully because I was in calm with my goals and open for do whatever thing in life. And I start to review my emails, and I read a letter of Patricia, and she told me that David has cancer. And in that moment, I can't believe that.
The people that most often get cancer in our communities are our tribal elders. They're the ones who hold the knowledge of our tribe. And being a young person, I look around at the people in my community, and not everybody my age is going through the efforts that I'm going through to learn about our culture, to learn our traditions, and to actively pass them on. So when somebody like David gets cancer, and there's that possibility that some of that knowledge is going to be lost, it's more than just losing a family member. It's more than just losing an elder. It's more than just losing somebody I love. It would mean losing an entire store of knowledge for our people that has already been lost. And our people are so lost already and so starved for our traditional way of life. And David is one of the few people who is capable of helping bring that back. I mean, losing David wouldn't just be devastated to David's family or to my family. It would really be devastating to the whole tribe and to all Wabanaki people.
Yeah, cancer sucks. I can say that from the get-go. Cancer's creepy, sneaky. And that's what it did to me. It snuck right up on me.
Not David, not my son, no. He's got a young family. He's got 2 little babies, a wonderful life. He's got a wonderful career, and he's carrying on our traditions, our culture, everything. Why? I was so angry.
I knew that something was wrong, physically and emotionally with him.
We were still in South America. I was in Cochabamba in March of 2012, I guess. And I started, getting some mucus, and every time I'd gob it up, there'd be a little blood in it. And that started to get worse over the couple of months. Finally we're back here. We came back here in April of 2012, and it still kept doing it, and sometimes it didn't, and sometimes it did. And so finally in May I went up to the res, to the health center, to see them because I get free health care up there. And so they took a look and they thought it was an allergy, so they gave me some allergy medication, and I took that for like a month and a half, and nothing happened, nothing. It never got any better, and it was just same as it ever was. But I'm busy, I'm working, I'm thinking I got an allergy, and I'll go deal with it. It took me a few more months, probably like September I went back, and I was like, I still got an allergy, something's going on. It's only one side is blocked.
You are living a life with your kids, with your husband, with challenges, being in another country, don't speaking very well the language, with 2 kids, and my second son, Nathanas, is a special need kid, and he's a kid with Down syndrome.
I know in that moment that I need to be with her and with the family, and I don't know how or why, but I need to do that. I have problems with my papers because I am Bolivian, I live in Spain. In some days I can do all for fix that, and in 7 days I was traveling.
I always have tried to treat people the way that I would want my family to be cared for. That's always been a nursing philosophy of mine. Seeing my loved ones sick has really shaken us, I think, as a family. I encouraged him to come to Portland to see a specialist. He might get a better answer. It was then that he found out that he had a tumor there, and they biopsied it. He just walked out of the building and into the parking lot, and it was like a punch to the stomach for him, and he just said, it's the worst case scenario. It's bad. It's cancer.
It was like 11 o'clock at night. I was just getting ready for bed, and I got this text like, oh, I hope your dad's going to be okay. Like, I'm really sorry to hear all this news, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, excuse me? And so I try and call him right away, no answer. And that makes it even worse. Like, no answer after that. Like, what is going on? So late that night, I was able to talk to him, and he told me, it was in his nose, and he's going to have surgery for it in Boston, and he doesn't know about chemo. He didn't have many answers at the time. It was all a learning process for everybody as it hit him.
David, when his dad was away, he was a little boy, and he didn't sleep well at nights. So he'd get up, he'd come down, I'd be reading downstairs, and he'd come and sit with me. Just kind of would come and cuddle. And so then he grew up. I was in Florida when Jennifer called me, and she said, we got the biopsy report back. And I just couldn't even breathe when she told me. And whenever I think about it, it's awful. My first thought was, I have lived a full life. Why couldn't it be me? And I mean, I'm 74, and I've had such a great life. It's okay if I get something like that.
Early February, I went down to Portland, and to this guy, and he took a one look up there, and he just said, that is not an allergy. You got a major growth, and all you had to do was look. I mean, it was right around the corner. And he asked me, has anybody looked up your nose during this whole time? And that was no, nobody had.
I became angrier when I found out that he had been going, since he came back from Bolivia, to the health center. And I don't know if it would have made a difference. I don't know. But I felt that the care that he received from the very beginning was very lacking.
They have a health center. They help the people as much as they can in the health center. But the relation between the government and the native communities is getting better with the years. But also I will say that the native communities are still very marginalized in the United States. And they have a health facility there, but not necessarily that means they have the best health system.
He went and he says, look, I know there's something there. Somebody, please, somebody refer me to an ENT guy.
So yeah, there it is. I got a major obstruction in my nose, and I asked him, what it could be. And he said, well, I wouldn't worry too much. It could be polyps, although it looks bigger than polyps. But it's some kind of growth. It's not necessarily cancerous. That's the first time I heard the word cancerous. And I'm like, oh wow, but it could be. And he's like, well, and he's trying to downplay it and all.
And I feel like, oh my God. But I say, I block myself. I say, okay, this is not gonna be nothing. I'm gonna go with you to that day. But I knew.
Takes a chunk out for a biopsy, sends it out. I gotta go back in a week to hear the results, and the results are that it's cancerous.
And I became angry. I just felt hopeless.
I didn't understand, what kind of cancer he had at the time. I just knew he tested positive for cancer, and I'm just like, I had never seen that coming.
There's a pretty good chance I'm not going to be here at this time next year. I'm going to be dead and gone. If I sleep, I'm only here for another year. I want to be awake for this whole year, So I'm only 50 years old. I'm in love with my wife. I love my family. I have a beautiful... a larger family. I have aunts, uncles, cousins, everything. I have a beautiful piece of land down east. I have good work. I'm doing the work I enjoy. I'm not getting rich. I ain't no Rockefeller, but I'm a happy man. I'm a very, very happy man with what I do. Now all that's getting taken away. And then I see all these other scumbags drifting around polluting the earth, and I think, why not them? You know, how about those guys? How about that guy that just beat the shit out of his wife? Why not him? How about that child abuser right there? You know, why not those guys? Why me? Why am I going? And yeah, the stages of grief, I guess they call them. Forget how they go, but there's the last one is hopefully acceptance. I'm not there yet.
Dad doesn't like people to know his emotions, so it's hard. It's really hard to know how he took it deep down.
And then something happened. Luckily, my family again came to the rescue. My sister's an RN. She works down in Portland. So she knows the lingo and she knows the deal.
What kind of cancer? How big? You know, tell us more. I want details. I want to speak with a physician. He told me that it was a non-resectable tumor.
It's T4A, which means it's a tumor, fully grown. It's way over here. It's starting to go up into my ancillary sinus. It's getting so big now it had burned through bone, and now it's way up in here.
The doctor was not very aggressive, I think, about treatments. He said, you know, well, we'll do some chemo and radiation, and we'll see in 6 months whether or not it shrinks to the point that surgery is an option.
It was inoperable until I had some chemo to shrink it.
I was very frightened for Dave. And it was my colleague Sue who said, don't take his word for it. Go see somebody else. There's always a second opinion.
I agreed, sure, why not? You know, see what somebody else has got to say.
We decided that we were not going to even deal with the first physician who basically had told David, you know, well, it's bad and we can't operate and we'll try something in a couple of months.
They didn't know if they could actually do anything.
We wanted answers now. It had been far too long for David to have these symptoms and not have them addressed. And so I became very assertive.
You had better give me what I need, because I'm going to come right down there and get it, and you're not going to like it. So she was there. Every visit, she was able to explain to David exactly what was happening next.
So the entire week was nothing but MRIs, CAT scans, doctor's appointments, and I immediately started working on a file for David. We want names, we want numbers, who do you talk to in the office, get their extension.
And if there was any question, she'd question the doctor.
I'm very organized in my work, so I immediately went into case management mode and started this entire file, and here we have the disc, and here's the MRI and the CAT scan. We need to make sure that these are in the film library, so I went and used my resources at the hospital to get them into the system. So when doctors throughout the Maine health system needed to look at David's records or CAT scans, they could just pull them up.
Went to this other guy, his name was Dr. Rodiger, and he took a look up there, and he's like, yep, that's what you got. You know, nothing different there. But he did say, but, you know, you can get that thing out of there, which is the first time I heard anybody say that.
And he says, we can fix that. We can get it out. And it made us hopeful. We knew that it was going to be a bad scene, but he was going to be over this.
I guess he'd been working with this team out of Massachusetts Eye and Ear Infirmary, a guy named Dr. Emmerich, who knows how to do this thing called a maxillectomy, where they actually open you right up. You can see the scar. I don't know if that camera can, but it comes right down here, wraps around my little nose blowhole, down there under, actually goes just up inside my nostril and then straight down and then up and around. And what they do is they like flip that whole thing back and they take out that tumor.
He was scheduled to have surgery, and that meant total reconstruction of his face and his palate.
And that sucked. And that made me sad. Couldn't sleep at night. I just laid there.
And they said it was going to take 10 hours to do this. And he would not be able to speak for 10 weeks. I said, oh my God.
Well, I was thinking about pine boxes, and I was thinking about what I'm going to do with all my junk, you know, and I'm gonna just have a bonfire or what?
Some points asking myself, okay, that I'm gonna become a widow, no? What I'm gonna do with those 2 kids? And thinking, okay, some moments very cold, like, okay, if this happened, if he died, and talking with David about these issues. That was hard. It's like, okay, love you, you love me, we are going through this, but what happened if the worst scenario came? And it was very hard as a couple being able to talk about this thing. And then I said, David, I think if you die, my decision will be to come back to Bolivia or Chile and stay there, and I will bring your sons every year to your family. And he said, I'm totally agree with that. That is what I want. I totally agree that you need your family. And then see him with this part of himself saying, okay, I don't want to leave my family, no? I want to stay here, but I have this illness. And then, but he's a warrior. And I saw him going very strong to this process, to the surgery, even if in the beginning sounds very, very scary.
I appealed to those spirits that would listen. I appealed to my elders. I spoke with the elders to figure out whether or not this was the time to go or not. And you don't really get answers when you speak with them, but you have intuitions. And the intuitions told me that not quite yet. So that means it was time to put up a fight, I guess, rather than accept my fate. So, so I put up a fight.
Talking with a friend from New York, she advised me, maybe you can do a fundraising. And in that context, my sister was here, and she said, maybe part of this fundraising can be presentations as a flamenco dancer. And knowing that she said, okay, I'm going to organize the flamenco presentations.
When I go to the place of the Abbey Museum for where it's going to do the performance, was a circle. And I start to feel what I need to do there. It's the circle of the 4 directions. We are in a situation very stressful and trying to be the best, and a lot of persons start to help us.
All of this came out of something for David, and all of it came out of helping David. And the title Rhythms of the Heart came from the fact that even though Wabanaki music and flamenco music are completely different in every way, we were still able to make those 2 rhythms together. Because ultimately, the beat of the drum is a metaphor for the beat of the heart, and for the beat of the heart of Mother Earth. And it's believed to be the first sound that any human hears, because you hear your mother's heartbeat. So flamenco also comes from a tradition of flamenco mimicking the rhythms of the heart and how it speeds up and slows down. So both of those concepts being present in both of the art forms were what really gave birth to the title, Rhythms of the Heart.
They create this beautiful performance that in the beginning for me was like, how are you going to combine or create it's not the word, but a conversation between flamenco and Wabanaki.
Guano de, guano de, guano de, guano da. Guano de, guano de, guano de, guano de. Guano de, guano de, guano de, guano da.
All the people who help us a lot. All David family, I could see how they work as a clan. Everybody there, with all their energy, their love, their thoughts. All my family there, unconditionally, you know. My sister Lorena traveling from Spain. That was amazing for me. Of course, some moments I feel alone. I'm thinking, okay, I need to be strong because David is falling apart. Because of this is a very sad situation and scary, very scary. And these little boys, they are feeling what is happening, but they are not understand. I need to be like, in some way, to be balanced.
Away, away, oh, hey, hey, oh. Away, away, oh, way, oh, hey, hey, oh.
I wanted to thank everybody for being here, and forgive me, I have a little trouble speaking since my surgery, but I mostly feel great right now, and it's been a hard time for us as a family, but without all of you, we couldn't have done it. It's been a really big help, and you know, I wasn't ready for this. I don't think anybody ever is. It just comes and sneaks right up on you, and this is when we need to be a community. You know, and our little island is just that much more beautiful because of the people in it. So I want to thank everybody for helping my family at a time when I couldn't. That means the world to me.
I'm going to be always thankful with Lorena because she helped us not only with her presence, no, she helped us with her art, and she said, okay, I know I can do this. We can use this art and call the community, and the community came. Oh.
And I didn't realize how well known David was until he became ill.
Tuck me in, kiss me on the forehead, tell me everything will be just fine. Oh, mama, hold me one more time. Tomorrow morning is kindergarten, yeah, they're gonna show me how to get in line. Oh, mama, hold me one
the news was better.
It was very contained, and when they did the frozen sections on it, which is they test the borders while they have you opened up, all of those came up negative for cancer. So all of this was really good news. Oh, and in the end, while I'm having the surgery, they thought they were going to have to take my cheekbone and possibly my eye, because the way these tumors grow, they can grow in any direction. Any direction. It can go up around your optic nerve. It can come way over here, and if it touches your bone is compromised. That's got to go. They can go right straight back to your brain, where you're fucked. I mean, excuse me. I wouldn't have had a choice. It would have been terminal if it had gone that way. But it just so happened to manifest out through my sinus, and it bothered me, and I noticed it. Because with all of my doctors and prosthodontists, everybody I have to see, that's the first question they ask is, how did you even know you had it? Because like 95% of the people who have this don't even notice it until it's too late. And then it's just like, sorry, there's nothing we can do, because it's way back in your brain. You only got so much real estate in there. And it's the junction of all kinds of your optic nerves, your ear canals, your taste buds, your mouth, your throat, your brain. Everything's happening right there. That's like Grand Central Station right there. So so I lucked out, you know. It started bugging me, and I was lucky.
I think his connection with the nature, with the forest, helped him a lot. And I told him, don't claim trees. And the first thing he was doing after that was claim trees.
That was actually my salvation after that surgery, was to jump back and go out into the woods looking for bark in early May. It was only 3 weeks after the surgery. And then jumping up and making that canoe. That's therapy for me. I like it. It's like forest therapy. This tree, saps are in this tree. This is the inner bark right here. That's the pithy layer, the cambiums between there and the pulp of the tree. That could be a 1/2 inch thick on a mature tree. Don't take that or the tree will die. It will generate a second layer of bark. You can see that these trees have.
I think for him to be part of that project and to be part of the gathering of that material, to be with Steve Kyer, that is not only his best friend, is a person who has a serenity and a knowledge, a great person to be with.
We've both learned a lot from each other and spent a lot of time together in the woods as well as in the shop. A lot of really good times together, so I've appreciated the relationship because he has been trained as a professional boat builder, and that's a background that I don't have. So it's kind of a good blending of skills there. I've spent more time in the woods, and so I have a little more familiarity that way, but you know, I haven't been in the boatyards like he has, so I've learned a lot from him that way. And if anything, I think, you know, he might have even gone to work a little quicker than he maybe ideally should have, because he was so excited about the work that we were doing. But I think it was a good motivation for him to get through the healing process as quickly as possible.
You know, I built 2 canoes that year I was having chemo, so against everybody's advice, but I did it anyway. You know, 2 weeks after my surgery, I was up in the trees, and against my surgeon's advice that I might burst my sutures, I have no feeling in this part of my face now. I mean, I could stick a knife in there and I wouldn't even feel it. But strangely, I have shooting pains through there. It's the nerves trying to reconnect. And I have pains. I had to take out these teeth right here. These are dentures now. And sometimes I have shooting pains where the teeth used to be. There's nothing there, but I'll just have this intense pain right there. And the worst lately is that it's getting itchy. Like, this will be itchy, but it's numb, so you can't scratch it. So, like, the itch is on the inside, which is like, how annoying is that? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know how long that's going to go on for, but now I have to have chemo, because even though they say, even my last PET scan said there's no cancer apparent, they're going to chemo and zap me anyway, radiate me, because that's standard procedure. So they're going to cook the shit out of me. No recurrences. It's not an option to have a recurrence or to go low with the radiation or anything. We're going to fry the shit out of me. I'm going to lose my parotid gland on this side, my salivary gland. I'm going to lose a bunch of... I won't be able to swallow. I'm probably going to have a feeding tube, because I can't afford to lose much weight anyway. And, you know, I mean, there's not much to me. So I'm just going to get the feeding tube and pour in the mashed potatoes or however you do it. We'll see. But, yeah, 60 days I start on, 6 weeks rather. I start on Monday. It's 30 days total. And they pretty much promised me that I'll be toasted because it's going like right in the head and in the neck. I'm going to have a sunburn in my throat. I'm going to have a sunburn here. Probably lose a patch of hair down through there. Going to be extremely nauseous. Jack me up on heavy pain meds. And then there's like a 40-day recovery time. That's what I'm worried about because I need to be working on the other end of that. I want to be doing this canoe project, so that's why I wanted to start earlier. But I had to wait because there was some healing from the surgery that had to happen.
When David and Patricia were first married, my mother came across these Chinese sky lanterns, and they're beautiful. And we had a couple of them and took them down to the water and blessed their marriage and thought good thoughts. This year I thought, after David has finished his treatments, it would be nice to say goodbye to his cancer, if you will, and maybe take 6 of those balloons, 1 for each week of his chemo and radiation, and just light them and then just push them off into the universe and say goodbye.
Well, I love a good ceremony. It was nice. I'm surprised they didn't torch the field or my house or anything. The wind was wrong, and they blew right back over the res here. But, well, no, I guess one blew out that way. But they were great. It was good to see. It was fun watching everybody, watching, like, you know, got 10 people trying to launch them at once. One was cancer and one was suffering. They're gone. You know, I hate to see people suffer. So, and a lot of people who have cancer right now are suffering. They're suffering both physically and mentally. So gone with that suffering. You know, this turns out in a bad way with me. I hope I can just accept what it is and close this chapter on this planet down with grace and dignity, I hope, without much suffering. I don't want to put people through that, and I don't want to go through it. Maybe I'm just a big pussy, but I don't want to, you know. Yeah.
We got it. There we go. All right. This one's gonna be, let's see, how about suffering? I name you suffering. You know what's about. Bye-bye, suffering. Okay, you ready? Take your troubles with you.
Hold it up.
Yeah.
Hold it up and see what happens. Oh.
Let it go.
All right.
There it goes. A tough launch, but we got rid of it. Isn't that a good name for it?
Yeah.
Yes, you guys.
Oh, we did this.
Man, whatever they put in your body, whatever was in that chemo stuff, it's still running around inside me and affecting me. Whatever the radiation just bakes you, and I'm sure they overcooked me. You know, I had side effects. I mean, I had to shave my head. My hair fell out on the whole top 2 months after the radiation. So I just shaved it. I mean, here it is. Got to see my own bald head for the first time, though.
Then he had the surgery. That was crazy. That was a humongous blow to me. I had never seen my dad in that state before, like face all cut open, and it was crazy. You know, just more glad that the cancer was gone, I guess, in a sense. And then he had chemo. Saw Dad lose his hair. That was incredible. I had never seen that. I'm always used to Dad with, you know, hair like he has now, you know.
And they said that if I can get through 2 years, no growths, no nothing, that's like a 95% chance that it'll never reoccur. After 5 years, definitely not. But 2 years is my big goal right now. Got to be clean for 2 years with nothing. You know, I got 50 swinging years left on me. I mean, I'm only 51 and I'm going for 101. Much of my bodies I can keep for the next 50 years. It'd be the best.
I could see that in some moments he was in a emotionally very difficult situation, no? Because everything changed in his life.
I haven't had a creative thought in almost a year now. I still have things on my desk that I was working on in February when I found out. I got nothing coming out of me, man, nothing. I mean, the only thing I've been thinking about is myself, unfortunately, and my health. You know, which is okay. That can be a catalyst for some design, I suppose, and maybe it will be. But it really killed my process in a way. And what does come out of this will be, you know, just a small window of my work, if anything does come out of it at all. I mean, I have a lot of sketches in my book. I was sketching for a while there, not as much as I normally do. Most of them are of a pained and screaming individual getting his face torn off by tongs or something, you know, which is what it felt like I just went through, I guess. Most of what's coming off that table right now is really personal to me because it's the only thing that's come off the table all year. I dragged bark with me everywhere I went this summer, hoping the muse would strike, but it never did. I mean, and I sat down and tried to force it a few times, and it hasn't come. I learned something this year, and something I always knew in the back of my mind is that we're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time. So I'm going to go have a good time. Easter Island's just someplace I've always wanted to go. It's something I've always wanted to do. It was a gift from my wife. Not to mention, it's February here and I'm slipping all over the place. I'm going to break my neck before I get to the airport probably. But yeah, it's warm there. I'm going to lay on the beach. I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot of design out there. I'm taking my sketchbooks. Maybe that's going to be a great instigator to get my juices flowing again, my creative juices. I mean, they're already starting to trickle. I've always wanted to go to Polynesia anyway, and I'm going to hit all four corners of it eventually. This is the first corner that I'm hitting. Patricia doesn't know it yet, but we're going to New Zealand, Tahiti, and Hawaii as well. So, and the Marquesas probably too. So, oh, there she is. Now she knows. It was fantastic. It was beautiful to be there for 10 days with nothing coming down heavy on me. Just full of legend and full of mystery and full of archaeology. It was just like a big reservation. It's just like everywhere I go in Latin America, I see people and I think, man, that looks just like my cousin or my uncle or my aunt or something. And the most amazing thing was to just see the deepness of the culture, and it reminded me of the deepness of my own culture and other indigenous cultures. I just wanted to sit there alone and look out at the ocean, try to understand what happened last year and put some perspective on it if there is any perspective to be put on it. One thing I was looking for was the creativity that had left me. I found it there. That was one of the reasons I went. It just came to me on like the second day I was there. I had a blank book and I had my pencils. I started drawing again. And even while I was there, I'd wake up in the middle of the night with a vision and I'd just scribble it in my book, put it back down, go back to bed. So that was a good thing. And since that time, it's returned and it's stayed. And I'm able to get down into my studio again and start building some, a body of work again. It was my first time in Polynesia, and I had been wanting to go for my whole life. And every once in a while you just get to a place like that, and it's perfect. That's what makes life such a valuable thing, when you can balance all the details and the chaos and the running around we got to do. Balance it with those little moments like that, and getting out on the islands off the coast of Maine, you can find those little moments. That's the good stuff,
It's hard to put, it's really hard to put how Dad took it from what I saw and from what I know,
If I could say anything about it, it's like, I'm glad it happened to me and not Patricia, and not my children. And my mom and my dad, my brother and my sister. I'm glad it happened to me instead of them. Why? Because I can handle it. Even if there is finality to it, I'm okay with that. Not to say that they wouldn't be either, and I'm not trying to be presumptuous, but I'm okay with it. If it was end game and all of that, I guess. Not that I wanted that, but if that's what it was, okay. I could probably accept it in the end. In fact, I could accept it in the end, I think. But I would not want to watch them go through that and go through that pain and uncertainty. But I've gone through plenty of uncertainty in my life, and I've actually lived a very happy life. So I'm glad it was me. That seems like a weird thing to say, but yeah, I'm glad it was me. So.
I have to say that I am most thankful for the fact that one day people will be able to look back in time at David and look at him for all of the work he has done for cultural preservation and passing on that knowledge to all of the tribes, and not being selfish with that knowledge and being willing to teach anybody who wants to learn.
There are important lessons to be learned, and the elders figured it out a long time ago. And I think we're rapidly forgetting that in this day and age. We go from heated homes to heated cars to heated schools or workplaces, back to the heated car, back to the heated home, plunk ourselves down in front of the TV and watch an electric squiggle to entertain us for the evening. Pick up a guitar, pick up an instrument, play the drums, beat on a plywood table, and make music, make song, and speak the language of your grandparents, of your elders. Do the things that they did, and I think our children, the next generations, will be much better off for it.
It's the life can go tomorrow. I want that we enjoy this moment in the earth.
David, I know it's been a hard road for you. It's been a hard road for all of us, but not as hard as it is on you. And I hope and pray that you maintain your strength to heal, to be better.
I have to thank you for providing me with an example of what it would mean to be a good ancestor.
I love you so much, and I will always be your little Swista.
Now I just feel like I need to be following you around more and learning your art and understanding what you do better. And the bond we have will just never ever break.
Your sickness was not only your sickness, was my sickness, our son's sickness, our family, our community.
And everywhere I've been, everything I've done with our family in mind. And I think about all of you every day. Every day. Love you. Love you. Love you.
My name is Tobias Francis, and this was my dad's story. He ordered a canoe through him, and so that's pretty much how it all happened. It was pretty much all on a business level at first. Then he got to know Dad a little bit through just meeting with him and whatever, and he liked him and liked, really liked what he was doing. Dad obviously liked what he was doing. He understood who Andrew Wyeth was. And he told me beforehand, he said, if this guy asks to paint you, the answer is definitely yes. And I said, okay. And I was still young at the time. I can't even remember, I was like 12 or something. And after the painting was done, I saw it and I was like, wow, this is me and my dad. My dad was holding me like this. I was pretty young. He had his arm around me. I just looked like a young boy. We were standing on a beach, strong man holding his son, protection.
While floating amongst the green and gray upon Passamaquoddy Bay, I chanced upon a tiny tot riding on a guillemot. What say, my lad, why do you roam? What is your name and where's your home? I've neither nor, they've been swallowed, I've been betrayed and beaten down by dollars.
How much for your grandma?
Dollars.
How much for your grandpa?
Dollars.
How much for your right hand?
Dollars.
How much for your homeland?
I always catch the big ones using dollars.
How much for your grandma?
Dollars.
How much for your grandpa?
Dollars.
How much for your wedding band?
Dollars.
How much for your homeland?
Well, I come away perturbed and puzzled. How did all the good get guzzled? I went and found that tiny tot riding on that guillemot. And we took some blue out of the sky, we wrapped it in a lullaby. We took some golden from the moon and we gave it to the laughing loon. who bound those colors blue and gold and gave 'em to the clammy cold, who got up from his muscle bed and he made damn sure the word was spread from Diggity Wash to Dead Man Harbor to Grand Manan and even farther, from Bocabec Bay to Quoddy Head. He told the live and he told the dead. He told the wolves and the moose and the deer. He told the straight and he told the queer. He told the roar of the Cobb's Cook Falls. He had a clammy cold, he told them all. He told the urchins pushing broom. He told the starfish in the dressing room. He told the whispers of the seals and he told the slippery of the eels. He told the smoke from the cedar fire and he told the tide's divine desire. The clammy cold, he walked the flats and he told the clams who told them back that they have got the whole thing covered. Now go ahead and spread them colors. So he sewed a sail, a Fundy fog, and he tied it to a driftwood log. And I could hear him sing this verse as he sailed off for the universe. He said, I'm going away, but I'll be back when the gold hangs from the tamarack, when the blues is bold as a northwest wind. That's when you'll see me again. For blue is for a thing that's true, and gold is for the good in you. By the will of the crew, by the faith of the feather, we'll get this done if we get together. I'm spreading the word, it's time to save Passamaquoddy Bay. Almost forgot that little guy on that killing lot. Well, he said one thing, then he moved on. Casella wanted Jictaguan, which in Passamaquoddy means be careful of those who chase you. And I'd like to add, be careful of those who bait you. They could be waving dollars.
How much for your grandma?
Dollars.
How much for your grandpa?
Dollars.
How much for your wingspan?
Dollars.
How much for your homeland?
While floating amongst the green and gray upon Passamaquoddy Bay.
Every 500 trees I check, probably 20 of them will be good. Tough life being a bark man, but it's out there somewhere. You'll find it.